arriving in China and pressing their shutters. From innocent children to vibrant young men. From heavy traffic to massive buildings. From hard work to impressive strides. What monumental changes have photos been able to record? They record the changes across time and uncover China in an instant. This is a story of the times as told through pictures.
Because I was drawn, I was attracted to China because of a dream. And I told them about this dream of, and they said, well, have you been to China? Because that sounds to us like China.
Country that very few people back in my homeland knew anything about. In 35 years, I have seen the people of this country, and I'm saying it honestly, their lifestyles have improved incredibly.
I came to China to basically tell a story to the world. I go into the mode of telling my life story here in China.
For the soya, is it because of China?
Yeah, well, I use soy in almost everything.
Peter Crosby, an American photographer and international cyclist, has travelled across China on his bike twice.
This is from Uruguay, right? An artist in Uruguay in 2013. But I love it because it's a leap, right? Someone is taking a leap. And so that's what this van is, a leap. Going to China for the first time, a leap.
In 1994, 39-year-old Peter first came to China. At that time, China was the kingdom of bicycles in the eyes of the Western world.
And then there would just be this sort of stream of people riding bicycles, the big old Fei Pai and Forever, and they would be riding quietly, side by side, maybe a bell every once in a while. The woman might be sitting on the back, you know, on the side. Maybe there are heights on the handlebars.
Peter, who loves cycling, began to plan a trip across China, and he used a bike made in China to make it happen.
I put on a bus, and then Yicheng took the ferry up the Yangtze, because the Three Gorges Dam, they were just starting to build that.
In the 1990s, China ushered in a tide of construction, ranging from world-class water conservation projects to small roads connecting urban and rural areas. Peter was often surprised at each place he visited.
Right, because they were building, this is just a basic road in a rural area. They were so important, they were so precious, they were so new.
This is a shared memory of people at the time who worked hard to build their homes. Peter started his journey in Beijing and finally arrived in Hong Kong on a bike made in China. He cycled more than 3,000 kilometers through cities and villages. Along the way, Peter recorded the China he saw with his eyes and his camera, and in the 19,400 photos and 15 diaries which Peter brought back to the United States.
Country that very few people back in my homeland knew anything about. When we crossed the border from Mongolia into China, first words that I heard, this gentleman wearing a white shirt shook hands with me and said, "Welcome to China."
Friendliness and warmth were British photographer Bruce Connolly's first impressions of China. He came to China 7 years earlier than Peter. Unlike Peter's way of observing China by bike, Bruce chose the train as his means of transportation.
That was really what started me in 1987, just this desire to do a great railway journey, one of the great railway journeys of the world, because I was a train fan.
In 1987, Bruce decided to plan a train trip through China.
I get people saying to me, for example, the Chinese people are always smiling. Now that I found really quite funny, because these are the expressions you get. You're capturing moments. We've often said a photograph is worth 1,000 words.
In the 1980s and 1990s, trains were the primary mode of long-distance transportation in China. Before and after the Spring Festival, there would be a nationwide traffic peak, which is known as the largest periodic human migration phenomenon in human history.
Task, it was an endurance at Spring Festival to go home, the college students all making their journey back to the towns and the villages, and they all tried to speak to you, they all say, "Hello, hello, hello, hello,"
Bruce went all the way south, recording the real China along the way.
So the Yangtze was a living river, all the way from where, navigation could commence, boat down to Chongqing. And here was the bridge way before the city that was carrying the railway line across. Everything else was ferry boats, last in Chongqing. And I remember writing about this in my notebook, how we were coming down the river. And as we came down here, I remember writing. This was where an awful lot of the people who depended on the river, people who were working as the Bang Bang men, working in the docks, working on the boats. Many families lived here and they were tied in with the river.
After completing this journey across China, Bruce returned to Britain with true images of China.
I was going back to the UK, I was giving many talks. Every day I'm putting photographs of the China that I know, the China that I see.
In the following years, Peter never forgot his experience of cycling through China. Then, in 2021, he had a wild idea: to return to China and rediscover the country.
I said the first thing was, really, I hadn't been riding a bicycle for years. I really want to ride a bicycle like thousands of miles again? almost 60 years old.
Once again, Peter chose to explore China on a bike. What shocked Peter most is that in the former kingdom of bicycles, the biggest change is not only the means of transportation, but overall life philosophy. In fact, besides the evolving use of bicycles, many Chinese elements commonly found in the past have been changing quietly throughout the new era. They have not faded away among the urbanization, but are kept fresh in the memory of the city.
And we were here, what, December 2019? I wonder if the tea house is still here. Oh, wow, I think here we are. And this is definitely a place to come and get your picture taken.
This is a unique tea house in Chongqing. Today, Canadian photographer Alex, with his wife Juliet and his Chinese colleague Zhang Gaowei, come here for tea.
Which one did we leave here 3 years ago?
Wow.
These are all the locals' glasses that they are the teapots and glasses.
Make
that
yourself
left here.
at home, I guess.
In 2019, Alex came to China as a common tourist. After traveling to Chongqing, Alex decided to settle here.
I've been to over 250 cities in the world. I've traveled to over 107 countries since I started traveling. And there is no other city like Chongqing. It's a city that it gets inside you. Whether it's its beautiful bridges, its amazing infrastructure with monorails, its fantastic mountains. There's so much about this city to explore.
Beijing, for example, is also one of these things that, you know, when I arrived in Beijing, there were 3 subway lines. And now there's 22 or something. If you're not born and raised in China, or in my case, lived here for a long time, you would absolutely think this is insane amount of transformation.
其实我看了一本关于中国80、90年代的书，我就开始对中国深入的了解，我就觉得怎么可能变化这么大？
People really wanted to start to try to understand China because they could feel China rising and coming. So I felt my role as a photographer was to help people understand the changes taking place within China.
It starts at 6 in the evening. The most spectacular sight in Beijing is the peak of urban traffic, in addition to the towering buildings at sunset.
自打开始规划这个2环、3环、4环、5环、6环之后，这个城市的变化就太大了。
Tonight, He Jiantao is going to host a European golf tournament, which has become his favorite since entering middle age.
今天和我搭档的还是裴建涛裴老师。
周末的金秋时分，我们一起来到了法国巴黎的郊外。我们知道这个经常用的一个这个词儿叫凡尔赛，你凡尔赛。然后我们今天带来这个比赛呢，就在凡尔赛宫旁边的法国国家高尔夫球俱乐部。
This is a photo published on a famous American magazine in 1979. and the boy is He Jiantao, who was 8 years old at the time.
这只可口可乐当时的这个负责市场的小伙子叫张进，他们就把我给找到了。
那天呢，我父母带我去春游，坐火车，绿皮火车啊，这咣当咣咣当当就坐到八达岭。
When He Jiantao and his parents reached the Great Wall, they met James Anderson, an American photographer.
就是好多人那儿围着，两边的人在看他照相，身上背着一堆相机，他可能一下就发现，哎，这个小伙子虎头虎脑的。
Anderson then took out a bottle of Coke he carried with him and gave it to He Jiantao. This boy, born and raised in Beijing, drank soda that came from the other side of the ocean for the first time.
当时喝一口肯定是觉得不好喝，所以我才是这种苦涩哈，比较拧巴的这种表情。你看这个可乐也是原装的，所以它肯定是从美国带过来的。
From the perspective of this Chinese boy, he could not adapt to such a strange drink quickly. After He Jiantao finished the Coke, Anderson captured this moment. A little boy in typical Oriental clothing of the time, with a commodity from the Western world, formed a strong contrast in this photo.
有好多事情，其实你想，冥冥之中都是有天意的。所以真正的变化就是从喝第一罐可乐开始，那个时候就打开了这个开放的这个帷幕。对。
From that time on, commodities from all over the world began to flood into China, and many foreign photographers focused their cameras on ads in the streets of China. This is an old advertisement in Shenyang in 1988. This is 1987, and consumption habits had changed greatly. In the 1980s and 90s, as people's lives became richer, cameras were entering ordinary homes. Owning a camera was then considered very fashionable. People began to take pictures of things they found meaningful. The prevalence of cameras helped preserve social life from that time in the form of images.
Right, so what happened in the 80s is that people were able to get their own camera. So before in the 70s that was still very expensive, it was more for the professionals. And of course in the 80s and 90s, especially from the 1970s, 80s and 90s, like that is a time frame that I'm interested in.
Ruben Lundgren, a 2-meter-tall Dutch photographer, is an expert at capturing images of different times. He has visited many Chinese cities and found that the current photographic works could not show the time dimension of such changes, but many precious photos recorded people's living conditions in a certain period.
If I want to tell that story, I need to collect a lot of different types of pictures to tell that story in a fun way, in a meaningful way.
Lundgren realized that, to discover an interesting China, he must first transform his own identity from a photographer to a photo collector, which Lundgren calls a photo detective.
So yeah, photo detective and photographer is not, it's sometimes just the same. But with the Chinese photo book, it's also a way of telling, Chinese history for a foreign reader from the perspective of the photo book for a Western audience, and hopefully that will also improve the kind of understanding between, nations.
Every weekend, Lundgren would visit the Panjiayuan antique market in Beijing to buy old photos. Many merchants here know him.
好久不见，还有新的画册吗？是摄影的吗？我看一下。
Recently, Lundgren has been preparing a new album, which he calls Dream Machine.
going to be a book that has pictures of people in photo studios in which they stand in front of a backdrop of a fake car or a fake helicopter or a tank and airplane. And it's such a adorable, it's going to be a very adorable little book that these dream machines, or the machines that were popular in certain decades, are reflected in the pictures as well.
Today, such scenes no longer exist in reality. Due to new affluent lifestyles, people no longer need special props to show their dreams. People just need to raise their mobile phones to take pictures of amazing things or scenes. Dreams have already turned into reality and become part of daily life.
Yeah, in the society we live in now, it has a complete different meaning, because now people just take the airplane, they take a car, they adjust to modern times easily because they can absorb this modern technology. And that's not just something from the last decade or so, it's something that is already, is in the Chinese identity in some kind of way.
Ma Rui-jing is the Chinese name of Samani Kin, who is an international student from Tajikistan. 3 years ago, his parents sent him to China to study photography at Beijing Film Academy.
从小我最大的一个梦想就是旅游和摄影，我就特别喜欢去探索新的地方。
Ma Rui-jing likes traveling in China during holidays and recording his feelings about China with a camera.
都是去了中国各种各样的地方。这个是云南，这个是福建，去朋友家，然后是重庆、贵州和四川3个地方。最后一次去的地方就是新疆。 因为我是来自塔吉克斯坦，3年都没有回家，所以我去那里也算是找我在中国的老家。他们给我们展示他们的服装，他们当地的生活。
Although he only stayed there for one night, the familiar customs made him feel at home. This was also the most homesick night for him in the past 3 years. Back in Beijing, Ma Rui-jing began to think about the theme of his photography assignment for the new semester. A book recording China, authored by an Italian named Adriano Madaro, inspired him.
我翻那些10几年前关于中国的书，给我的一个印象，在物流这个方面上，搬东西啊、送东西啊、搬家呀，都是自己在身上。 或者在他们的自行车上。
livello di vita più semplice, meno americanizzati, il concetto della Corea del Sud, anche la gioventù credo che sia poco spirituale, diciamo. Quando si dice in Cina, per me è come fosse creativo, perché basta pensare.
While browsing through the works of other photographers online, Alex accidentally comes across a group of photos.
Do you know where is it?
Is that in Jiefeng Bay?
Yes.
Wow. And you can't really see the sky because it's all skyscrapers. Beautiful. Beautiful colors though, huh? Look at the colors.
It's 30 years.
The blues, the yellows, I mean.
Chongqing was isolated, very isolated from the rest of China because of geography. This city, they called it Mountain City, and because literally the hills rose straight up from the river. It created tremendous physical challenges.
These photos were taken by Bruce Connolly in 1994. In this photo taken by Bruce, a porter looks into the distance while walking down the steps. In that moment, the mountain and the city have merged on the steep steps, with the man carrying his livelihood over his shoulders.
The first time I came to Chongqing, the bongbong men, at the time we didn't know what they were. We could see they were carrying heavy loads of goods up and down the stairs. I mean, this is not an easy city to even walk in. And that has always stayed in our mind. This is iconic, I think, to Chongqing.
Yes.
These are the people that have built this city.
From Bruce's photos of old Chongqing, Alex realizes that today's Chongqing is on its way to a mega city. The city's past and the great changes it has been through are its real charm. So he hopes, with Zhang Gaowei's help, to rediscover the memory recorded in Bruce's lenses. Alex and Zhang Gaowei arrive at Qianse Gate, looking for Chongqing porters, known as Bang Bang Men, with numbers dwindling to just a few from hundreds of thousands.
师傅，您贵姓啊？姓张。做帮帮做了多少年？30年了。30年，这个也是一个帮帮的照片。那你们是做到几岁准备退休吗？60岁。60。啊。
When you retire, is this going to retire?
你
Or will he give this
你退休了之后，这个东西是收起来吗？还是你会给谁？甩了。甩了呀！你舍得哦。
These images. Even while I was walking the streets of Chongqing today, looking at these photos, trying to figure out what happened in the last 30 years, showing the progress Chongqing as a city, it's quite amazing. I think that Bruce has started something special where he has given us a guideline to capture a city.
If you stand at the same position and shoot at the same angle, the photos taken over a span of 30 years can show the great changes in Chongqing. From only one bridge to 37 river-crossing bridges, the people of Chongqing have realized a miracle of urban construction. And Alex has been one of these witnesses. Today, Ma Ruijing, who lives in Beijing, feels a more vibrant life.
你好，谢谢。我来中国之后，再也不用现金了，包括外卖、快递，所有线上能干任何事情，给我很多启发。因为我想，当时的摄影师怎么看中国，然后。过了这么多年，我有机会去体验这个新的中国。
Inspired by this, he decides to take China's world-ranging logistics as the theme of photography assignment for this semester. He hopes to present Chinese times completely different from those shown in Madaro's works. So he needs the opportunity to take photos in China's logistics enterprises.
邮政 EMS 正在为您转接人工服务。 你好，请上。
喂，你好，这是中国 EMS 公司吗？
哎，是的，蔡少，您是有什么问题吗？
我是北京电影学院的留学生马瑞景，然后我想拍一组关于物流的创作，可能。
Ma Ruijing's application for shooting is approved by China Post. This is the Beijing sorting center of China Post, located outside the 5th Ring Road in Beijing. The staff warmly welcomed Ma Ruijing.
你好，你好，我是马瑞景啊，你好，你好，欢迎。
整个这个过程都已经发展到很高级的一个程度，从中国的任何一个地方送到，无论你是在大城市里面还是山上，都有这个机会。
Today's express logistics have reached the world and have become a key bridge of exchange between China and the world. Experiencing and photographing at the logistics enterprise gives Ma Ruijing an idea. During his 3-year stay in China, he has never delivered anything to his family. This time, he wants to send gifts to his parents via courier.
因为这3年以来都没有怎么送过去东西，然后发现了其实中国邮政原来是可以送过去的。瓷器，
对，
然后也是传统中国文化。
对，这是典型的中国产品。
谢谢。喂，你好，我想要寄一个国际快递，寄到塔吉克斯坦。
Besides gifts for his parents, the package also contains something special. It is a photo album he carefully put together.
因为我记得我爸小时候他也会给我看他在国外拍的游客照，然后我一直都也想分享这些经历。
These photos record Ma Ruijing's happy life and the true China in his eyes. Ma Ruijing imagines that when his parents open the package, they would feel his homesickness and the good times when he has been studying and growing in China in this new era. This photo was taken in 2009 in Tengge Desert, Zhongwei City, Ningxia Autonomous Region. It only caught a brief moment, while the struggle between man and the harsh environment has lasted for at least hundreds of years. It is because of this photo that people got to know British environmental photographer Sean Gallagher.
I'm a photographer and filmmaker. I'm originally from the UK, but I first came to China in 2005 because I'm particularly interested in my work in understanding environmental issues. And with China being such an important country in Asia, I knew that what happened here in China was going to be important for the future of Asia, and the environmental issues would be key to China's future. So I wanted to use my passion for photography and photojournalism to try to understand that, to understand what China was doing.
这是高速公路的桥吗？
应该是的。
你这是在飞机上拍的是吧？
对，这是从飞机拍的。再来一个照片，我们复习一下。
好的。赵伟把那张也打了。
Sean, a foreign photographer in China, eventually focused his lens on the desert. This is largely because there is no desert in Britain. He was curious about this natural landscape. Meanwhile, he wanted to understand how human civilization survives in deserts.
So when I read articles about desertification in China, it talked about villages being swallowed by sand dunes, about sandstorms engulfing cities. Conjured up all these incredible images that, in my mind, I thought it would be amazing to photograph.
In 2009, Sean came to Dunhuang, Gansu province, where he saw a desert for the first time. But from the moment he set foot in Dunhuang, he changed his view.
That was really surprising to me because it was the first time that I'd seen people using the desert for tourism. And it was really interesting to see that ingenuity that people had used the desert as a benefit for the local people economically. So for me, that added a new dimension to my story because it was unexpected.
The trip to Dunhuang completely changed Sean's perception of the desert. He decided to visit more desert areas and, through his images, tell the story of China's fight against desertification.
To Ningxia, Gansu, and into Xinjiang. And each place I stopped, I photographed a small story that was part of the bigger story about desertification. So in Inner Mongolia, I photographed disappearing nomadic life. In Ningxia province, I photographed how one city had been built in the desert to rehouse people that had been moved from their land because their land had been so badly affected by desertification that a whole new city.
In 2010, Sean visited Kulun Bana, Inner Mongolia, where he found that people here have not only adapted to living in and around the Gobi Desert, but have also transformed their homes.
Which is quite a special place because a lot of tree planting has been taking place there over the years as an effort to try to stop desertification in the north of China. And so there's been large tree planting campaigns in the north of China. And this image, you can see in the foreground and they would plant the trees in these rows in an effort to try to turn this land. I think in China they discovered the large tree planting campaigns.
In 2014, Sean visited Kunlun Bana again. Although only a few years had passed, some amazing changes had taken place here.
And you could see a lot of the area had turned into forest in combating some of these issues. And then hopefully that success can spread to other areas and be shared with other countries that are facing a similar problem of desertification.
In October 2022, Sean receives a phone call from a tree planting volunteer who knew him in Kunlun Bana, Inner Mongolia.
你现在在敦煌吗？
我已经来了3年了，在这里又种了1万亩，一共种了1000万棵树。现在都好漂亮了，你过来吧，我带你去参观。
Invited by this local volunteer, Sean decides to visit Dunhuang again. More than a decade has passed since his last visit, and Sean is looking forward to seeing a new Dunhuang.
And I think China, over the past 15 years, is starting to learn about the importance of protecting the environment because it's core to how society develops. So issues like desertification, climate change, issues around China's wetlands or looking at forests, these are all environmental issues that are going to be affecting us for decades, hundreds of years. These stories don't end.
Bruce, now nearly 80 years old, has settled in China for 35 years. He keeps rediscovering China with his camera to this day.
30 minutes to Beijing to Tianjin. Enough time to get a coffee. In 35 years, I have seen the people of this country, and I'm saying it honestly, their lifestyles have improved incredibly.
Peter keeps cycling in his hometown in the US every day. He looks forward to cycling through China once again during his lifetime.
You know, I was saying earlier that when you have a vision or a dream or an aspiration, the people who early on say, that's great, how can I help you?
Ma Ruijing will end his studies in China next year.
我的梦想就是一个人去经历生活，去经历不同的地方、文化、人。在中国的5年，所有积累的东西和经验，都想跟他们分享。
In October 2022, Ruben Lundgren received an invitation from the Hangzhou Art Exhibition to exhibit his photos and share with the world his video stories on China.
这个是结婚以前的时候，你可以看80、90年代的时候，你可以看哦，我要这样的菜，我要这样的菜，那个。Then I do know this kind of change of time. That's a great story to tell to Dutch audience to say, listen, this is what's going on in China.
Today, it only takes a 40-minute drive from He Jiantao's home to the Great Wall via the expressway. And he is no longer the young boy who felt the bitter taste of Coca-Cola 40 years ago.
就是一条路走上去，然后大家就是往上爬长城。看这个长城，这显得还是更远一些，这还是比较近，所以我觉得应该再往上。 我觉得应该就是这儿了。真的，我踩的这个砖就是我那个时候小的时候踩的砖，而且更没想到第一次来长城就喝到了人生的第一罐可乐，拍到了人生的第一张彩色照片。
Over the past half a century, the Great Wall still stands in silent splendor and looks the same. Just like the porcelain and silk on the Dunhuang ancient road connecting Eastern and Western civilizations, photographers from all over the world today are connecting China and the world through images. The real, interesting and beautiful stories of China continue to unfold through their lenses.